All right, folks, here we go. This is going to be a very interesting, maybe explosive, controversial topic on Idleman Unplugged today. And I will tell you up front, I'm going to be all over the place. I don't have an exact format here or an agenda outlined. I'm just going to speak from my heart about this issue because it's huge. It's affecting all areas of life. LA County just came out with some type of legislation requiring vaccination for indoor events. Where that will go, it's hard to tell. And no matter what I say, I mean, you've got hardcore advocates on all sides. You've got people right in the middle. It is interesting waters to navigate through. So I'm just going to share my heart from a pastoral perspective. Idleman Unplugged. If you don't really like what I'm saying, start your own podcast and share your heart, share your views. But I want to say up front that it is not, I believe at this point, obviously the mark of the beast, because there's different eschatological views as well on this whole issue. And anyway, I'm not going to get into those right now. That could be a different podcast. But when a person takes some type of mark, it's going to be a clear rejection of God, His Word, absolute. I believe it's going to have to be over absolute truth for sure. And so this is not there. We're not there now. Are we planting the seeds for that? Absolutely. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand the direction we are heading and how easy it will be to cut off buying and selling and trading and different things. So I want to get that out of the way. So people don't have to worry about that. And the question is, I guess I should have said this at the beginning, should I get the jab to save my job? And I'm hearing from nurses, county workers, city officials, and they're asking me for my thoughts, my opinions. And of course, it all depends on where you're at in your walk with the Lord. I'm seeing a lot of carnal Christians handle this a lot different than I see mature Christians handling it. I mean, there's every type of situation out there. So I'm just going to share some principles on this. Number one, it's not the mark that I believe. Number two, you have to be very careful where you get your information from. The CDC is contradicting Fauci, and then you've got political agendas being used. I also believe this is a genuine virus. Been saying it from the get-go. It's genuine, whether it was manipulated, gene splicing with the Wuhan lab. Who knows? I don't know why very few people are talking about it could be a pestilence as far as God's judgment and where we are in the end time scenario. You just don't hear that much anymore. There's excuses, and there's this, and the anti-vaxxers are against the vaccine people, and then you've got the mask and the no mask, and it's just, it's not going in a good direction. So if you've ever thought about surrendering your heart to the Lord, now is the time to do it, and that's the only way to really steer through this. So with that said, be careful where you're getting your information from on both sides. Now, those who are really pro-vaccine, they are just listening to the talking heads, the sounding what they call the bullet points for a certain party and a certain agenda, and that's all they're listening to, and they are being influenced in the fear direction and also in the direction of misinformation. I was in a conference call I listened to in Los Angeles, and just the information. I mean, these people are sincere, but they can be sincerely wrong, and double masking outside and all these things. It's a very interesting time. So I wish I had exact clear direction from the Word of God on this issue, but you're gonna have to take it to the Lord. But make sure you get your information from good sources, even on the other side, the side that's against vaccines, because if all you're getting your information from is some website or from this one person, and that's all you talk about, and hundreds of thousands of deaths they're not reporting. I don't know about that. I don't think the numbers are accurate. I think there's a lot going on in the back end we're not aware of, but I don't think it's astronomical. I don't think some of these numbers are on target, and you're being led astray by wrong information as well. And you're getting, and you're actually losing credibility from people when you start posting all these things that just aren't factual. For example, the death rate with vaccines. we don't know where that is at truly. I don't trust the numbers that are coming out. However, I know a lot of people here in Los Angeles County who've got the vaccination, and no one has died. They've become sick, but no one has died. So I'm not seeing, practically speaking, all these elaborate numbers that are out there. Again, not saying the numbers aren't doctored. I'm just not seeing it. So you got to be careful or you lose credibility. Make sure you're well balanced, well read on both sides. And just so you know up front, I don't know, I'm sure people have been following the ministry. I do have a health background health and fitness, studied a little bit of immunology, biochemistry, biology, kinesiology, or in regard to how the body trains correctly, core stabilization training, proprioception, neuromuscular facilitation on how you can strengthen the core and your body adapts neurologically. None of this makes me an expert at all. I'm just reading and learning like you do. I love biology books. I studied a lot about the antibiotics, and the word means antibiotic, against life, and how this craze for antibiotics, and really you can heal yourself naturally. In a lot of areas, we've cured strep throat with colloidal silver, elderberry, high dosage of vitamin C. I mean, this is just common sense things that God has given us to increase our immune system. But we've got a lot of overweight people not taking care of their body, their immune system shot, and so this COVID is pretty deadly. So I would encourage you to build up your immunity, and you're thinking a vaccine's going to help, but it doesn't really help a poor immune system. And I don't know if it helps at all. So studying vaccines, I remember when I read about polio and how polio was actually on the decrease, because my mom had it, so I studied a little bit. Polio was on the decrease before the vaccines came out, and then the vaccines are heralded as this miraculous thing. People still get the flu. So I'm for what works. So I'm not an anti anything or pro anything. I'm for what works. Science has done some amazing breakthroughs, and our health and the medical field. Thank God for that. But we've also made some tremendous mistakes. Remember when it was okay to use DDT, I think it is, for mosquitoes, and that pregnant women should drink and should smoke, and there's nothing wrong with asbestos. I remember laying a lot of pipeline and removing things with asbestos. And after 1973, actually buying a home, if it's prior to 1973, you have to sign all these disclosures. And so you see asbestos, DDT, smoking, drinking. There was cocaine in Coca-Cola, bloodletting, where the physicians used to think it was okay to release blood, release a lot of your blood and get rid of the disease. Now we're finding that's ridiculous. I mean, there's so many things where we have not got it right. We've had to correct course. Especially in the area of immunology and how the body works, the microbacteria, and studying autophagy. Somebody just won a Nobel Prize for autophagy a few years back on how the body consumes its own dead and dying and decaying tissue, mainly through fasting. And so there's a lot of things. My point was, in studying these things, the theory behind a vaccine was to give yourself a little bit of the virus, which I don't know makes too much sense, because you're going to get some of the virus just being out and about, with the flu shot, and then they use fetal tissue. And what I'm going to actually do, if I can remember, is in the description of this, when it goes out on podcast, YouTube, I'm going to put in there a 45-minute interview I did with a holistic doctor, answers a lot of these questions on type Th1 immunity, type Th2 immunity, where your body has lifetime immunity versus synthetic immunity, and what are the delivery system in vaccines? Why is there fetal aborted tissue? I mean, that's the delivery mechanism into the cell. The mercury, the aluminum really excite the immune system. So I'm just not a fan of things like this, that there's really no certainty on it. And when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine, then now we've got a whole new issue, because this is not this shouldn't be called a vaccine. It's an experimental drug. And it's funny, we were raised not to take experimental drugs. Now we're being pushed to take experimental drugs. So interesting things there. What it is, that's why it's called a messenger, an RNA messenger that signals something in your RNA closely related to your DNA that triggers something in your body to produce the right protein. I've read a lot on it, and I can't quite figure out where they're going with this. I think it's been studied for 10 years. President Trump put the warp speed on it. And so there's some work behind it. they just don't know because it can. That's why there's blood clotting. That's why there's other issues, because you don't know how it's going to affect the body at a what they call microchondria level, the level of the cell where actually change takes place. And we don't know what the future is going to hold on this. So I don't see, and I threw a survey out there, are you, those in the medical field, are you truly seeing that those who are vaccinated are not as sick and are not dying as much? Or is there any, what I would personally love to hear in the years to come is that this experimental thing really worked well and we have some breakthrough here. But I'm just not there because I don't know how it affects the body. It's supposed to produce a certain protein, spike protein, that now can defend as soon as your immune system sees it coming. It can kill it because it sees it as an enemy. However, how God designed us, as soon as it sees a virus that is not familiar with, it should kill it anyway through the mucous membrane system in our white blood cell count, bone marrow, so many different things that help with immunology. So that's my thoughts on it. I'm not pro anything, against anything. I'm very leery of where this is going. I also don't believe at this stage there is a microchip. Now, could prove to be false. There is so much information out there. Things are changing. Could it fit a microchip into the end of the syringe or into the end of the needle? Obviously, they're small, but I don't think it's that type of conspiracy theories with microchips, the 5G networks, and all those things that you've been hearing a lot about lately. So we just got to be careful on conspiracy theories. And what we're seeing, though, is coercion. We're seeing it as forced, and that's what I don't like. So to answer the question, what I would be doing is praying and fasting and seeking the heart of God. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to get it. I'm just going to trust God. And then you have other people saying, I'm going to get the vaccine. I should just call it the RNA messenger experimental drug. I'm just going to get it and trust God. So you have both sides of it. You have Christian leaders out there saying, take the shot, men I highly respect, take the jab, that are older, and then other people on the other side. So we just got to be careful when we say, well, I'm just trusting God and I'm not going to take the vaccine, and you're not trusting God because you did. There's a lot of Christians who just don't understand how the body works. They don't understand immunology and the immune system. And they think, they have kids in the medical profession or adults in the medical profession. And I found that a lot of people in the medical profession are exceptionally well trained on how to mask the symptoms, but they don't delve into what is causing the symptoms. For example, why not give people struggling with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, health related? Why not help them change their diet? High blood pressure, oh goodness, let's get you on a statin drug or blood thinner. No, why don't we get you eating correctly and changing your diet and losing weight? So that's the friction between the medical industry and those who are more health conscious, is because there is a clear divide. A lot of doctors, cardiologists are very overweight. They're not eating good. They have just tons of junk food. And so you have to be careful when you say, well, I'm not trusting God, or I'm trusting God if I take it or I don't take it, because pride gets in there. And I've never seen pride more prevalent than it is now, where it's taking off masks. Now, I understand there comes a point where you've got to say, this is not right. This is not right for our kids. We're holding the line, and we are doing that at our church for sure. But at the same time, you have to have a gentle, humble, gracious spirit filled with the Spirit of God. If you doubt that, then you better reread the Bible. And wisdom is key here. Wisdom is key. So I think you should allow people to make their own decision on what they feel is best. God's going to work behind the scenes. There's so many people I've seen over the years I've prayed for that are just not taking care of their body, and God still sees them through. We need to be the example for our family, for other Christians, and let us see compassion. But also, there's an agenda being pushed. So to help answer this question, I know it's taking a while, but you got to get some background here. I'd be praying, I'd be fasting, I'd be humble, I'd be broken before God, because if those things aren't existing, then you're reacting and you're not responding. You're reacting out of fear and pride and in your face type of mentality, and I'm going to show you, and that's not good. You have to be the example of what a Christian looks like. But I would also seek legal counsel. The Pacific Justice Institute is really good. Brad Dacus, a friend of mine. Alliance Defending Freedom is great. We also, our attorney at the church, David Gibbs legal firm out of, I think, Washington. There's a lot of places you can seek legal counsel. I would tell my work, hey, I'm going to seek legal counsel, or let me check with my physician, local physician, because there are some things where you should not get this type of shot, this vaccine, and this experimental drug. And I think it's okay to pursue those things, be in prayer, be in fasting, and then see what God does. So I can't answer this question for you. I know people are going to be frustrated with that, and I don't know your situation. Maybe God wants you to take a stand. And I think we should take a stand regardless, even if you take the jab. But I also think it's wise to say, okay, I've got a family here to feed. Lord, I don't know, should I take this jab and still be employed and not make a foolish decision financially? Because I don't have enough information on what the long-term effects are going to be on this. I do know that I stopped listening to a lot of the, ranting and raving on both sides, because it's not healthy. You get all fired up on one side, and if you had to get the jab, I've told people this before. I mean, you've got your kids to feed. You're not in a good spot financially. Take it to the Lord, pray, fast. And then if I took it, I would be fasting afterwards, because fasting can really help detox that. I would be eating clean, eating healthy. And you're going to see, though, the need possibly for booster shots, more shots. My concern is also the toxicity that we're putting in our body, because unless you can show me something, I can't really find where the ingredients is being listed. Is it mercury, which sticks around the body? Is it different things, the fetal tissue, which I don't think it's that. I could be wrong, though, because they don't need I don't know how they're getting, how they're saying they're getting into the cell, because you have to remember, something you just put in the bloodstream has to have a delivery mechanism, or it's hard to penetrate the cell membrane. So that's why they say this is covered in lipid fat, in order to penetrate that cell. So a lot of this experimental, I have some questions on that, because fat could be easily dissolved and stored in our fat. So I don't know if this is actually reaching the target spots here. And you'll hear nurses who are against vaccines say that, oh yeah, they're not working at all. And then you hear nurses who are pro-vaccine saying, oh yeah, we're seeing much better rates. And our agenda skews our view for sure. And so I would be worried about toxicity. I would worry about being forced and coerced. I mean, it's so funny. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. Well, where are you people at now? That's not the case now. And so I think we just need to take it to prayer. And there's not a quick answer on this. A friend of mine who can no longer do missions outside the United States took the jab so he could continue doing missions. That's his choice. If we can't do certain things with our kids, and I know it stinks, and I know it's not right, and I know we need to keep contending for these things, but I think a lot of people are fighting with the wrong attitude. If you're fighting with the wrong attitude, that being pride and a rebellious spirit and anger, you are not going to see God move as powerfully. You've got to be that broken, humble, filled, bold Christian. Then you can make a difference in your school district. Then you can speak with love and clarity and not anger. And that's where I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned for this anti-vaccine, no mask. I'm not a mask person either, by the way. The science and masks are barely falling off, and the cash register the cash register person, grocery clerk, I don't know, whatever, it's touching everything. The ATM machine, I mean, it's just absolute insanity. And what it is, we're allowing people who are led by fear to dictate how others live. And that's why I think a lot of us are concerned and saying things, is because we don't want to live in fear. We want to use wisdom. I've been told our leadership staff, I don't want to just be flippant. I don't want to be, we've got a memorial service coming up for someone we knew who had COVID and died, and another pastor here locally lost his son. And I've been texting to people this week who are really, really struggling with it. It's real, it's out there, but we can't live in fear. We can use wisdom, we can take precautions, but we can't live in fear. And that's what I think even a lot of churches are doing. They're not filled with the Spirit. And so they are living in fear, it's really a sad situation, sad thing to see. So let me see if I missed anything. I know California teachers now are going to have to become vaccinated, and they'll test or not. I'm sorry, they'll have to be vaccinated, or they'll have to take weekly tests. And what they're trying to do is just come on, let's be honest. They're trying to force you into it, make your life so miserable that you concede. And so be praying with me, because I don't know where that fine line is. I know we're not capitulating. I know we're not giving in. I know we need to stand our ground. But there are divided sides on this, and I knew in the Trump administration, there was a lot of great people appointed, from Mike Pompeo to Tony Perkins, Ben Carson, and over the education department, people that were brought in around him, his counsel, Christian leaders. I know my friends Jack Graham, Jim Garlow, Jack Hibbs were on his committee, James Robinson and Steve Strang too. I also talked to those guys quite often. And so we didn't have people, evil manipulating people with this, political agenda, with Bill Gates trying to take us out of population control around the President Trump. When he did Warp Speed, I believe a lot of these people had the best interests of the American public in mind. I think they're just doing what they could from a medical standpoint. Maybe there will be a huge breakthrough. Again, my prayer is that there would be some type of huge medical breakthrough showing, wow, we got it. God gave us this incredible thing to help ward off COVID-19. Or I pray that there is a national revival, a national awakening, evil is exposed, and that God begins. I believe it's a pestilence. If you read about when I bring pestilence, Solomon, if my people humble themselves, pray, seek my face. So I think personally, this is being used to break our nation, possibly break the world, and hopefully usher in a mighty spiritual awakening that we are so overdue for. It's not funny. Bill Gates has said some very interesting things over the years. Population. I mean, these guys are billionaires. They're fearful. They don't like all these people living on the earth. It's hurting their planet. And so I don't disregard any of that. However, I'm not buying into a lot of the conspiracy theories either. There's some truth in a lot of this, but there's some fallacies out there as well. So God has given us medical breakthroughs in the past. Thank God for those. And I'm not against antibiotics per se, for example, but we rush to antibiotics. When I had if I have strep throat and it goes to my heart as a secondary viral infection known as myopericarditis, and my heart starts to get inflamed, I might turn to something that's going to wipe out. The thing with antibiotics is it wipes out everything, even your good gut bacteria. They call it microbiome, and it wipes that out as well. So it really actually, in the end, hurts your immune system, and that's what chemotherapy does. It just to a much greater level, of course. But antibiotics are killing. Okay, I'm just going to kill all this bacteria, and now you've got to go and build up your bacteria again. There's the debate with probiotics and foods that encourage that. So I hope that helped. I would be in prayer. I'd be in fasting. If someone takes the jab to save their job, I personally am not going to look down upon them. I'm going to wonder though, did they take all the avenues they could? Did they fight it legally? And yeah, you might be ridiculed, you might be mocked a little bit, but my goodness, stand your ground and let's say, hey, I need some more facts before I take this jab. Let's give it a year. Let's see what the facts show. Trying to delay the process as you seek God. So I'm not going to look down on those, but I'm going to encourage you to really do your due diligence. Don't just submit. Don't just do this type of thing if you don't feel good about it. We know we're being pushed and coerced. I mean, if you look at the parallels in the 1940s under Hitler, reading Bonhoeffer and his book, and Eric Metaxas' book on Bonhoeffer, I mean, it's amazing, the parallels. It's actually alarming. So hope that helps. If you don't take the jab and you lose your job and you're seeking God, see, that's your key. Your attitude's right, your heart is right, you're loving, gracious, and you believe God is leading you in this direction, then I have no doubt he will see you through. But not everyone is in that same, what do I often say? We're in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. So for some of us, I think it's wise to look at our financial situation and make decisions and wait on the Lord. So I can't say either way. I know many of you maybe are looking for an answer. But I think I kind of spelled it out what I would do if it were me. We might get to that spot where, if you can't buy, you can't sell, you can't travel, but it's not yet the mark, but it's leading to the mark. We can see how all that's going. I believe cryptocurrency is going to be still making a big impact here in our financial system. You look at where our inflation is now at a 20-year high. You look at the housing moratorium on people not paying rent. You look at all throughout the United States, help wanted signs are up because the government is paying more people to stay at home than they would make at work, or about the same. And, laziness is a problem, and laziness can be fueled, and that's what's happening. So you see all of this Guys, this is a tsunami. This is a perfect storm. I hope you're grounded. I hope you know Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. If not, make that decision today. Commit everything to Him. And if you're just a Christian on the fence, it's time to stop walking the fence and jump onto God's side. Fully surrender your life. Spend time in prayer and fasting and the Word of God every day. Be led of His Spirit. And then that's why so many people are like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm so fearful. And well, if you're spending time with God, you're not going to be that fearful. You'll struggle with fear, but you'll say, okay, I feel led. I got to get the jab. All this stuff's going on. I can't lose. I'm a single mom, but I have peace about this, and I'm still going to fight it because what I'm concerned about is booster shot, booster shot, booster shot. Now you're loading yourself up with this toxic thing, possible toxic thing, and I'm also concerned that it could lead to other issues, health issues down the line. I mean, people have said that this could really break out into something horrific. I'm hoping not. I'm praying not. I'm hoping these scientists they've been working on the messenger RNA for 10 years, kind of know what they're doing, and I know it's experimental, but I'm hoping all this will work out in the end. So anyway, that is this edition of Idleman Unplugged. If you give me just a second, I'll look over my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything at all. Just kind of wrote these down this morning. Let's see. Nope, I think we got it all. So I will be praying for you. I would say move slowly. Don't react, respond, take your time. For all we know, something might come out in the next few months saying, hey, we missed it on these vaccines. We need to back off for a while, and you'll be glad you didn't get it. So I would push it. I would press it. I would seek legal counsel because I think we also have to fight against this type of tyrannical control that's being pushed in on us. So we have to be difference makers, but we have to do it with the right attitude or it will be ineffective.